this video, we're going to talk about invasive species and removing buckthorn. Where the open fields meet the woods, that's an edge. And from the permaculture perspective, edges are usually areas of high fertility. Right at the edge of the woods, you have that rich forest soil, and at the same time, you still have a lot of the sunlight of the open space. So a lot of invasive species, that's the area where they are going to start to encroach the woodlands, is by getting to the edges first. So what I'm going to do here in this property is I'm going around the edges of the woods and removing invasive species. Here's the edge of the field. Then here is a buckthorn. It has multiple stems. This is the common buckthorn. My objective in this area is to support plants, especially native plants that have high value to pollinators. And the challenge with the buckthorn is that it starts to form a thicket under which not a lot of other plants are able to survive, especially high value plants for pollinators. And at the same time, as the buckthorns go into seed, the birds start to distribute the seeds inside of the woods. And that starts to create a monoculture of buckthorn. Oftentimes, when we're working with plants and animals that have invasive qualities and can be invasive, we can get bogged down and sometimes even stressed out because you realize that, wow, this is a really daunting task. I am never gonna eliminate the bittersweet that I have in my property, or the knotweed is here to stay. And I want you to think more about the long-term management versus trying to just eradicate them completely, because they're here to stay. But as a human being, you're able to play the role of a keystone species where you can actually have a positive impact. The role that keystone species play is to maintain the structure of their ecological communities, and they allow for many other organisms to come in to thrive in conditions that without the keystone species they would not exist. An example of this is the beavers. They create an entire new ecosystems for many different organisms to thrive. Some keystone species are apex predators. Wolves, for example, in areas where they are reintroduced, they put a lot of pressure on herbivores, which allows vegetation in certain areas to regenerate. And that's the impact of a keystone species. Invasive management is actually an opportunity for you to do something good to help alleviate some of the negative impact of previous generations in the ecosystems that you're working with. So take advantage of it and understand that it's about long-term management versus complete obliteration of a particular species that has become invasive. So the challenge with buckthorn is that it forms thickets where sunlight cannot reach the forest floor and younger trees are not able to grow through that layer of buckthorn. So when the upper canopy, when the older trees die, you don't have new shoots, you don't have younger juvenile trees to replace those trees because all you have is buckthorn. So at that point, you end up with just the forest of buckthorn. Another challenge with buckthorn is that the berries, which are edible to wildlife, they have a laxative quality. So when birds end up eating way too many buckthorn berries, they can die from diarrhea. And if you end up in a situation where you have just thickets and thickets of buckthorn, you're gonna have an overabundance of those berries. Hey, please do me a favor, click like and subscribe to my channel and share this video with folks that may benefit from getting this information, because what I'm doing here is sharing a little bit about my journey with invasive species management to really share in solidarity some of the best practices that I'm trying to develop and also learn from you. So if you have some tips, just put them in the comments. In the next section of this video, we're going to talk about different ways to remove buckthorn. One of them is using herbicides, but there is also other methods, mechanicals like girdling, or cutting the trees and covering the base of the stump to smother any kind of sucker that may come up from that area. If you're going to use herbicides, there's a couple of things that you want to think about. First, you want to think about the half-life, and that term applies to how long that particular chemical is going to stay active in the area where you're going to apply it. So the medications that we take, they all have a half-life, and that means how long is that medication going to stay active in our bodies. So with herbicides, it's the same. You want to understand how long that particular compound is going to stay active. When working with chemical compounds and herbicides, what you're looking for is something that will do its job quickly and then break down into non-toxic elements as soon as possible. The other thing you want to think about is off-target exposures. Off-target exposure means when you apply a herbicide in an area, where is it gonna go besides the spot where you want it to apply it? So you want to be as precise as possible to make sure that you're applying that substance to the specific element that you want to treat. You also want to make sure that it's going to be a product that you can use around whatever elements you have in the area. If you have livestock or crops, or you're growing any kind of edible product, you also want to make sure that you're following the instructions and you're being safe. One of the things that you want to do, especially if you're going to apply something like glyphosate, is you want to use a dabber, which is just a plastic bottle with a little sponge at the end, and it allows you to apply the herbicide to specific areas. Once you cut that tree, you can go to the stump and apply a very small amount of that herbicide in that area where it's going to have the greatest impact, as opposed to having a lot of that material floating around, getting to other trees nearby or getting into the soil. So learn about the half-life of these chemicals and make sure that you're being as precise and careful as possible. With buckthorn, you want to make your cut and you want to apply the herbicide right on the spot. You don't want to walk away and try to apply it at a later time, because these shrubs have the ability to heal very quickly, and what they do is they seal the wound to make sure that other elements like viruses and bacteria don't start to eat up the tree. It's not something where you can cut several trees and then come back, because very likely the trees would already have healed that wound. And once the trees heal that wound, what they go into a suckering response. I cut these about 2 years ago, and you see the suckering response happening all around the stump. To get rid of these younger trees is harder because they are attached to the root system of the stump, but the stump itself is dead. The other thing that you want to think about is long-term management, which is you can do a one-time application of a herbicide to wipe out some trees that you really need to remove because you're preventing them from going into seed. But once you have this site under control, then you want to focus more on manual and mechanical removal instead of making it a habit to use the herbicide all the time. Something else that you can do if you don't want to use herbicides is that you can cut the trees and then you can block sunlight from reaching the stump. So what I did here, I put 2 pots right on top of a stump, but you can see that there is a strong suckering response from the buckthorn. You do have a lot of yellow stems, which means this is working. Now, the drawback of using this is that it's going to take several years. It's going to take 3-4 years probably to fully starve the plants. And in this case, there is buckthorn growing all around. One of the benefits of cutting buckthorn is that you can use the wood. I love using buckthorn posts around my garden. I use them to create trellis for my berries. I use them to support fencing in different areas. It's a very strong, sturdy wood. It's very similar to the black locust in that it will naturally resist decay. So I love using buckthorn. What I do is I cut the posts, I clean them, and then I let them sit away from soil so they are not buried into soil for up to a year. So I make sure that the stumps are fully dead, that there's not going to be any resprouting or any root systems starting to develop when I start using that material. When you're able to derive an output out of an invasive element, it changes how you think about it. It changes your relationship to it. It takes out a lot of the anxiety that may come with it, because now you're able to utilize an element that you originally considered to be a big problem. When I started growing food and teaching myself how to farm, I was working at a community farm where there was a massive problem with Japanese knotweed, to the point that a lot of gardeners would abandon their plots because it was so aggressive. After a couple of years, I found a way to compost the Japanese knotweed and obtain a high value compost green manure from it. If you're interested in learning more about Japanese knotweed and how to work with it, I'll put a link in the description of this video. Now let's talk about girdling, which is another option to remove buckthorn from your garden without using herbicides. When you girdle a tree or a small shrub, what you're doing is removing the cambium layer, which is the outer bark of the plant, and by removing the complete circumference of cambium, you prevent the canopy of the tree, or the shrub in this case, from sending energy and storing energy into the root system. what happens is you eventually starve the root systems of the plants and they will eventually die. Now with buckthorn, that may not happen right away. Sometimes doesn't even happen the second year. But if the plants are not able to store energy in the root system, they will eventually die. Buckthorn will try to shoot out new branches below the cuts that you make. You have to regularly remove those new branches. Still, you're not going to trigger a massive suckering response. You have to be diligent about removing any branches that start growing below the cuts that you make, because if they start growing, then that defeats the whole purpose. There is two benefits to girdling buckthorn. Number one, you don't have to use herbicides to kill the trees. And number two, you don't trigger the same level of suckering response than you do if you just cut the trees right at the base of the. You could potentially use girdling and herbicides at the same time. I don't like that idea because I want to be able to use the wood without having any concerns about herbicides residue in that.